Hey, what's up? This is Jason Drew, and welcome to today's edition of GSD Daily. It's episode 107. I was trying for the life of me to remember what piece of software I use to get my iPad screen on my computer, and I failed. I can't remember for the life of me what it is. It will come to me the second we finish, but I couldn't remember. So today is a continuation of yesterday. Yesterday, we started talking about the automated webinar playbook that you have access to when you go to, I dropped it in the post, but download it here. So it's doneforyou.com/legendary. And just so that everybody knows what, we got a little ticker there. So if you are just showing up, then you can see that you can download this report by going to Legendary. So basically, what we did yesterday was we talked about this idea of selling high ticket, highly complex offers through strategy sessions. And that was like coaching, consulting, all of that kind of stuff. And then we went through and talked about strategy sessions as a rule, like things that you need to do from a strategy session standpoint. We talked about, setting up like a high ticket automated webinar funnel. And we got all the way down to this section. So we talked about what a quickest path to cash is. And we gave you a little, if you print this book out, then you're able to fill this in, what your quickest path to cash is, whether it's a book that is half done or a software project that just needs a front end website, a course that you recorded 2 years ago, that needs some automation put on the front of it or whatever. And then we got down into this part, which was right there. So the architecture of an automated webinar. And here's where it kind of gets, well, for me, it gets fun because like we've built these things hundreds and hundreds of times. But an automated webinar, it has there's this kind of framework that you put around it. So the automated webinar itself is just this thing right in the middle. So let me see if I can draw. I think I can actually draw on this, maybe. Let me see. No, I can't. Anyway, so the webinar itself is the thing right in the middle. It's right there, if you can see my cursor. And basically, we have a lot of different traffic channels, that we can plug into. So if you already have an email list, then you can mail your email list to the offer. If you have retargeted traffic, you can retarget some of that traffic to your new webinar. If you have social media traffic, if you are an influencer, you can point those folks to the new webinar. Where we generally start off with is first is email. So if we have a client or we're rolling something out for ourselves, the very, very, very first thing we do is we launch to the email list. And the reason we do that is A, because these people already know us and they should hopefully like us, that's important. And B, to train the targeting, train the pixels, to train Facebook's pixels. So much of successfully running traffic now is based on Facebook's algorithm, Google's algorithm. Everybody has their own algorithms, and it's important when you're rolling something out to train those pixels, to train the algorithms. That way, Facebook knows exactly who to target. Otherwise, they have no idea. They don't know. They don't know what you're looking for. They don't know who is good for you and who is not good for you. So you want to make sure to train the pixels. And the easiest way to do that is to use a set of data that is perfect for you. And there's no more perfect data than buyers lists and prospect lists. So you mail the automated webinar, you train the pixel, and then you start a Facebook campaign with those results. So, if you have 100 webinar registrations, 200 webinar registrations, you're training the pixel, and then you tell Facebook, go find me another 1,000 people just like that. And then this is the budget per day. And then, you set up the ad campaigns and all that other stuff. But Now, we don't usually go directly to a webinar registration, especially for a high ticket thing. You can't like go from cold to selling a $5,000 thing like right out of the gate. Doesn't work. It just totally doesn't work. I was going to say, unless you've been in the space for 10 or 15 years, but then the brand, they're already warm to the brand. So, like I'm thinking of, some of the folks out there that you have, your Frank Kerns, your Grant Cardones, your Gary Vee, if they were to run a cold webinar offering a $5,000 thing, they're going to crush it. Oddly, pun intended, I guess, because I said something about Gary Vee, but they're gonna crush it because of the brand. Because if they put 3,000 people on a list, you're gonna find, they're gonna get great conversion on a $5,000 offer because there's 3,000 people on the list, or 3,000 people on the webinar. You know what I mean? So unless you have a huge brand that you've spent years, decades, kind of cultivating, you're not going to be able to just rush out and start selling this $5,000 thing. You got to kind of warm them up. And that's why we put this free report here. So the free report, the ebook, the chapters, the whatever, basically it's a free 6 to 8 page lead magnet. We've talked about them quite a bit before, but you give it away for free in exchange for an email address. Then you invite them to the webinar. Sometimes there's an onboarding sequence, which is these yellow emails right here. So that's, trying to get them into the webinar. So they're probably going to download the ebook, page through the ebook, then open your emails. And then after a couple days, they're going to sign up for the webinar, knowing that you know what you're talking about, knowing that you're going to give them value for being on the webinar. Generally, that's the best way to go. Sometimes we can run cold traffic directly to the webinar registration page. It just takes a little bit longer to sell them. So it might be they watch the webinar after a day, but then they actually buy 6 days after that. And that's thanks to this second set of yellow emails, which is the webinar replay sequence. So they sign up for the webinar, then they're dripped out the emails from there. And then all of those emails, they point to one of two things. So they either point to the webinar replay, the webinar replay being, so day 1 and day 2 of the webinar replay sequence, they point to the webinar and say, thanks so much for watching it. Here's the webinar just in case you missed something. Then on day 3 of the replay sequence, you promote 2 things. You promote the webinar replay and then the call to action for the offer. And then day 4 and day 5, you promote just the offer. So the call to action. Then you have buyers, and the buyers go off into the fulfillment section. So you're fulfilling stuff. Or if they don't buy, then you send them to the next offer. The next offer in your mix, the next offer in your thing, whatever. Wow, that was loud. So that is the architecture of an automated webinar. Now, there's lots of things you can do before and after this. I mean, you can send them afterwards. You can send them a downsell into a payment option. You can send them, through a sequence of videos that warm them up for the next offer. You can send them through blog posts, which and then drop another offer to them next month. This isn't the end of their life cycle with you. It's just the end of this funnel. So there's lots of things you can do, but this is kind of that matrix, that thing where they come in, they bond, they learn, you peel off some buyers, and then everybody else moves deeper into your email process, and hopefully they buy something next week or next month or next year even. One of the things that I find perplexing oftentimes is after like 30 days or 60 days, like people just don't email their list, which drives me crazy because those people oftentimes people don't actually turn on buying until it's 2 months, 3 months, a year, 2 years. We've had people buy 6 years. They've been reading my email, and then all of a sudden they come in. You know what I mean? But if I didn't continue pursuing that relationship for 6, it's not even pursuing that relationship. You're mailing your entire list. So you're basically, whether they're new, whether they're old, they're getting the same content. It's just a broadcast email. So it's just something to think about, and know that you're creating content consciously for is the people who signed up yesterday and the people who signed up 4 years ago. It's just something to think about. Now, the automated webinar, typically you generate traffic from various sources. Might be email list, might be Facebook, might be LinkedIn. We usually try to focus on one, and then we'll branch off into others. But one kind of leads to others, because you might have Facebook traffic as your primary traffic driver, but then you get back in front of them from email. Some of our physical product, like e-com clients, Amazon is a primary driver of traffic or sales and traffic for them. So there's always different verticals that you can tap into. As soon as you get stable in one, and stable and profitable in one, I usually try to find that second one, so that we know, just from a multiple streams of income standpoint. Now, you always want to point traffic to a lead magnet at first, or point traffic to the webinar registration page. It's typically a retargeted ad. And then you want, there we go. And then you want that automated email sequence follow-up to be in place. You want the webinar follow-up to be in place, the call to action, and then the fulfillment of the next offer. So on page 8 of this thing, I think this page 8. No, this is page 15. I don't know what I'm thinking. So page 15 is basically, you print this thing out. There's all of the different stuff that you're going to need in order to pull this webinar off. You're going to need the webinar presentation, which is a video, usually. But the webinar presentation is going to be a slide deck. It's going to be the video recording, and then like the edits of that thing. And then the other piece of creative that you're going to need is the lead magnet. And the lead magnet does have a piece of creative that I don't know, my desk phone that I don't ever use. But anyway, the lead magnet itself is going to have a piece of sales material that it's going to have a sales process, or a sales responsibility, I should say. What you want to do is you want to deliver enough content that somebody is, they're finding value in it. They have an aha moment. They have a takeaway moment from it. And then you transition into the webinar or the offer. And then you have your core pages. So your core pages, you need a lead magnet landing page. You need a lead magnet confirmation page. So lead magnet confirmation page. That's for the lead magnet. So they download or opt-in page and then a download page. And then for the webinar, you need the webinar registration page, the webinar room page, and then the webinar replay page. So the webinar room page, the only difference between the webinar room and the webinar replay, they both have the video, and it's both the same video, but the room page drops the call to action when the call to action is stated on the webinar. So like 50 minutes in, 30 minutes in, whatever, and you say, click the button below to sign up for a free strategy session where we talk about boom, 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 whatever. The link is going to appear, and then it stays there for the rest of the presentation. The webinar replay page is a second page, and it's only used in the replay email sequences. And that replay page has that call to action link, usually like after 5 minutes. Like I don't usually have, sometimes I do. I guess it just depends. But you can either have that call to action button immediately on the page, or it'll show up after a couple minutes, so you don't scare somebody off. But it's up to you. And then you want to have a strategy session scheduling page. You can just link directly through to like a Calendly scheduling page or QT scheduling or whatever. Sometimes we find that you get a little bit better take rate on those if you have a video or some content directly from you or directly from the sales guy or whatever, talking about why they should be signing up. So it might be the Calendly embed with a video on top, and the video on top basically walks through what you're going to do on the page or what you're going to do on the call. And that's just reiterating it right from the webinar. And then there's 4 sequences that you need here. So you need your lead magnet fulfillment email. So that's, thanks so much for downloading the email. Here's your link. You need your webinar promo sequence. So if we look up here, this right here, you need this webinar promo sequence, right? That first yellow block. Then you need your webinar replay sequence, and that is this yellow block right here. And then you need your strategy session promo sequence. So typically, it's not actually here, but oftentimes if they don't sign up for a strategy session from the webinar replay set, then we usually wait like 3 or 4 days and we just do like a hard push of the strategy session itself. No reference to the webinar, but just a, hey, we're here to help kind of thing. So that is the architecture of the webinar funnel. And this is your checklist of the things you're going to need in order to facilitate that, in order to build it. So is this helpful? Did you guys like today? I mean, so tomorrow we're going to pick up here. Tips for maximizing conversion. We're going to go through probably the next 10 or 15 pages. But today was the big one because it's all about architecture and flow and the things you're going to need, in order to pull this kind of a webinar off. A lot of them you probably already have, like in one way or another. And then we'll just continue through this document here. And if you have any comments, just go ahead and drop them in here. So it looks like we got a couple. All right, cool. So let's see. One of them was, where does content marketing fit into the mix? So content marketing, oftentimes, like if we're looking at this diagram here, content marketing is a traffic source. So it's still going to be over here. Yep, it's still going to be over here on the left-hand side of this grid here. So rather social traffic, retargeting traffic, PPC traffic, and blog traffic is going to be your content marketing traffic. It could be advertorials. It could be there's lots of different things that we can use here, but it's going to be over in the left-hand column. So, yeah, any questions at all, just let me know. doneforyou.com/legendary is where you can grab the report, and I will see you tomorrow, and we're going to talk about, maximizing conversion through this process. So I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.